Hello. A lot of people say lower your car. I say opposite. You need to raise it. What a freaking mess. Huh. Well, guys, I have been working tirelessly on this car over the last couple days. I ran into a ton of problems, ran into a ton of solutions, and I filmed every bit of it. And the other day when I went to go to dinner with Jade, I grabbed all my crap, grabbed my SD card. I apologize for my congested nose. Grabbed all my crap, threw it in the car, go to dinner, and the SD card that was sitting on the seat in her car is MIA, gone. And that is really, really, really upsetting because I filmed a ton of crap that went down on this thing. It's hard to say even where I left off, so I'm going to give you guys a synopsis the best I possibly can. I was just like livid because so much stuff, like I said, happened, and I filmed all of it. It was the worst. It's like I was doing my best and I still lost the thing. So I literally dropped the ball, or in this case the SD card. I dropped it. It's gone. No clue where it's at. Maybe one day we'll find it in Jade's car, but more than likely not gonna happen. Here's what we got going on. So the turbo manifold that is on there now is the tubular log modified stock one. As I explained in the old footage, I took the tubular one off because I want to do a test between the tubular log with a lot larger primary runner. So we had tested it in the past with a 1.25" runner like this one on Chappies, and with a small turbo it worked pretty good. Now I upsized the runner to 1.5" schedule 10. I think that's going to flow really well. I also made it a true divided setup, so it's still merged in the center. I wish I could have shown you guys all that stuff that I did because I filmed a bunch of it, but it's on there. The new turbo gaskets that showed up, this is one of the old gaskets. This one was fine, however this one is not, and so that was causing a lot of problems. Now if you remember, we ghettoed that together just so that we could do a burnout in it, and I wanted some gasket instead of no gasket, so we put that in there. I don't know if it helped or hurt, you know, whatever. So that's all done. The new gaskets are on. They don't leak. It was a huge pain in the ass. It took me like 4 hours to get the turbo back on, mainly because I had to reclock some things slightly, and I didn't want to remake any of the intercooler piping, so I was being really like big stickler about that. Then I ended up going for a test drive. And on this test drive, I made it about 100 feet before the rear end felt like it was shaking out of the car. And I was like, God damn it, I know what this is. This is going to be another wheel bearing. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, man, I really don't want to do that again. The whole thing was a nightmare the last time. I went ahead and pulled the knuckle off, or I attempted to pull the knuckle off, and I found that this bushing, which is now replaced because I'll get into that in a second, this spherical ball joint, or spherical bearing, was to the point where it was falling out of the rate. The entire knuckle was just shaking back and forth as violently as it possibly could. That's why I didn't make it very far. Now, if you recall, way back, the original issue and why it took so long to get the car back on the road was because of the wheel bearing. As soon as I go to remove the knuckle, the axle is fused in the hub, just like the right side. And I was like, great, I'm gonna relive this nightmare all over again. And sure as shit, it took me an entire day just to get the axle out of the hub. Now I had to plasma cut portion of the axle off. Yeah, I tried to get the axle nut off, and I had to weld the axle to my table to give me a sturdy enough point to try and loosen it. That didn't work. I ended up, like I said, plasma cutting the nut off, and then taking the entire stub shaft still in the hub and putting it in the press. Thank God we got this press, because I used it for 7 hours the other day straight, just trying to press bearings out, trying to press races out. The race got stuck in the hub again. It was just a nightmare. But luckily, there's always a silver lining to something. O'Reilly's not only had a bearing, they had wheel studs, which is good because I broke all of them. What I also had was a spherical bearing out of a Heim joint 240SX rod end. Now get this, I pressed this spherical bearing out of this rod end, and I took the old race and left that in there. The spherical bearing fits perfectly in the old race, so I pressed the old race and the spherical bearing back into the hub. So now this has a 240SX spherical bearing in a Jzx90 hub. And there it is. I did have to modify it and clearance it a little bit, and then I had to tack weld the outer race on either side so that this thing wasn't going to vibrate loose one day and fall out of the fucking car or something crazy like that. Other cool thing is the inner diameter of those bushings for the 240SX are the same exact bolt diameter that's on the Jzx. Awesome, good, great, amazing. The car's only been down for like a day. I took Sunday off because I was so pissed off about the whole thing and how long it took me. The other thing that happened, my good friend Eric at MFT Solutions, he came down and helped me out with some more of the wiring. And I want to give a huge shout out to this guy, because he is the fucking man when it comes to wiring. I'm going to put his card right here. Eric at MFT Solutions. If you need any wiring, tuning, even probably some diagnostic stuff, he is the man. He is the man. So if you need somebody to come down here and you live in the Boise area or Mountain Home, get a hold of him. This dude is legit. He knows his shit. He is super nice, super helpful, and he really came down and got stuff squared away. Here we are in the car. We have the old switch panel out of my IS300 is now adapted into the Jzx. Now, we have to clean up the wiring. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. We were really focused on doing it properly. This is a fully fused switch panel, and I even have real relays. Now, that sounds like a no-brainer to you guys, but for me, that's a big deal, because I would never do that much work. Kind of hard to see. There you go. They're even labeled. All of it's labeled. All of it's fused. All of it looks beautiful. It's all crimped beautifully. And once I make a panel for it, it's going to work amazing. The best part is you can turn the car on and off with switch panels instead of trying covering the intake with your hand. We went as far as to add a 200 amp breaker. Bam, look at that. See? Oh, crazy. So 200 amp breaker right here. Now see, the car came to life. You turn the ignition on, fuel pump, and fan. Sick. The starter works. I'm not going to do that right now because there's nothing attached to the rear. What an awesome setup. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming down and knocking that out. Now it's up to me to put the car back together again. I wanted to give some information out there. There was a lot of convoluted information about Jzx90s. If you need a rear wheel bearing, the LS400 wheel bearing is the correct wheel bearing. The part number is, it's a National Bearings 511007. 511007. Took a long time to figure out what exactly worked. There was a ton of misleading information on the internet that GS400s and GS300s will work. Now, apparently there's several different models of GS300 and GS400, which comes out to being that they have several different wheel bearings that are in GS300s, GS400s. If you're gonna swap a wheel bearing on a Jzx90, just go ahead and get, like I said, 511007. That's the one you need. It's an NTK bearing. Yeah, what a absolute nightmare. I've never had so many problems just changing a wheel bearing. And it's because this car came from Japan. It was an island car out in Okinawa, and everything on it, if it's been there forever, it's fused into the car. It is like, it's as if it was welded by nature. It's insane. Other thing we have to get done is we have to make the screamer pipes that go down and outside the fender, and we have to relocate this reservoir. The shitty thing about that is there's not a lot of great places to put it, and now that we have this wastegate set up, my original position right here is probably not going to work. I'm going to have to figure something out for that. Either mount it there and then mount a very aggressive heat shield, which is a possibility, or relocate it to the other side of the car, which there isn't a ton of room over there either. Figure that out eventually. That's kind of a down the road thing. I really want to be able to make it down the road first and test drive it a little bit and find out what else is wrong with the thing. I have to order V-bands for the exhaust because it leaks like a fucking sieve. A whole bunch of stuff. It's neither here nor there. Let's get to work. Alright, for those of you who haven't ever installed a wheel stud, this is actually a super simple process. There's a little bit of knurling on the end. It goes inside the hole just like that. And what I usually use is a washer that has a slightly conical inner diameter that is going to fit and is thick enough to, focus, clear this small shank portion. You don't want to just use a lug nut, because if you smoke it down onto this, you run the risk of damaging the wheel stud and or the lug nut. Go ahead, throw this in here. Oh, I don't think I can do this one-handed. Nope. Okay, go ahead and throw the stud in here. Take your washer, put it on there. Free spin this down. Wait for it to be all the way sunk up inside, and then remove the nut. There you go. Installed, just like that. Now, if you look inside here, you'll see that the inside of this is kind of fucked up from when I plasma cut it. Oh yeah, that's good and creamy in there now. That's a good cream sauce. Whole lot of creme. Got it all cleaned up, and it's kind of hard to see on camera, but the teeth are completely clear, so there's nothing obstructing them as they go in. There's only one thing to do now, which is get this thing bolted back up into place and figure out the washer setup, or excuse me, this spherical ball bearing that I put in there. Get that all squared away. Let's get this thing back on the car, finally. All right, so I got the wheel all back together. As you guys can see, the hub's all in, everything's tightened down. Went around and did a quick bolt check on all the other stuff. Now I have been wrapping up some stuff around the engine and everything like that, trying to get stuff squared away. I ended up swapping the alternator just now. It was like 5 minutes because it's 2 bolts. And then I want to start working on this wastegate dump, as along with a heat shield for this reservoir. I think I am going to leave it here, like I said, and just heat shield around it. But definitely have to get the wastegate dumps out of the car. That way I can put the hood back on, so that way I can put the bumper back on, so that I can actually drive the fucking thing. And then go take it to get registered. What I'm working on now is the wastegate dumps that go out of the car, the screamer pipes, if you will. And they're going to come down. I want them to come out right about here. and then maybe have some weird like flares on them, or like cool like pointy things. I don't know yet. I'm gonna design them up, but I want to try and keep them as even out this hole in the side as possible. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get those pipes ran and out where I want them to, but I think it's going to look sick.
Fighter jets, Jzx90 ways to break your neck. Close enough, watch your step, slam dunk and rip the net. Chillin' on my private Laker, standing O after my set. Michael Scott with the paper, midnight level with the threat. Militant with the beat, left, left, right, left. I don't know what you've been told, but they all fucking with the best. No more fabricating lies, 30,000 in the sky. Mach 2 to the room, I'm an A, she open wide. Sipping coffee, no cream. 120 down the street. 11,000 with the heat. Turn the fuck up, about to melt some steel beams. Sipping coffee, no cream. I'm already too sweet. 11,000 with the heat. Turn the fuck up, watch me melt some steel beams.